I don't know how many mornings, how many mornings over how many years I've come to this microphone complaining that the House GOP, when they're in control, doesn't get anything done. I got to say, I don't know how he's doing it, and I wasn't particularly an enthusiast, to be honest with you, after the last session of Congress. But Mike Johnson, Fast Eddie, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, is somehow figuring this thing out. He's brought John Thune from the Senate over. They had a joint press conference yesterday, and I'm impressed. They're advancing this thing. The House GOP has passed a bill to open the door for the one big, beautiful bill. And they did it with the help of promises from the Senate. Now, I know there are people that say they don't necessarily trust it, and that remains to be seen. And there's a lot to discuss here in terms of what's in it and what they're actually going to get done by way of cuts. But yesterday, Mike Johnson and Thune held a joint press conference and said, we're on the same page. We've got to make aggressive cuts. It will happen. We're going to get it done. And by golly, they got started yesterday. House Republicans coalesced and adopted the Senate's budget rewrite after spending the week bashing the upper chamber's proposal as an unserious attempt to cut spending. Closed-door meetings and assurances that Senate Republicans were serious about steep spending cuts in line with the House budget blueprint helped sway frustrated fiscal hawks and saved President Trump's agenda from costly derailment. So quite a development yesterday, 1472. Here's a little bit of Johnson afterward.
It's a good day in the House. I told you not to doubt us. The media always does. The Democrats always do. But we get the job done, and we're really grateful to have had the big victory on the floor just now. It was a big one, a very important one. The big news today, of course, is that we passed the budget resolution. We adopted the Senate's amendments to the resolution, holding in place all of the commitments and the instructions, the guidelines that the House originally enacted. And that was a big step, because that will allow us now to move forward, to have our committees actually drafting the one big beautiful bill. There's a lot of work ahead of us, and we're really excited about that. In November, the American people delivered unified government to the Republican Party. They returned President Donald J. Trump to the White House. They gave us control of the House and the Senate, and we are going to make good by that. We have a big responsibility. In the budget reconciliation bill, the reason we call it the one big beautiful bill, everybody in this crowd of journalists knows that all the components that will be in that. We're talking about ensuring that the border is secure, having the resources that are necessary to do that. We're talking about getting the American economy going again by reducing regulations. We're talking about restoring peace through strength and making sure we have the measures in place to properly fund those priorities. We have a lot of things, American energy dominance, all the components that will make things better for Americans, drive down the cost of living, and get our economy really going again. And of course, not the least of which, the big components of the one big beautiful bill is to ensure that we don't have the largest tax increase in U.S. history all at once, which is what would happen at the end of this year if we didn't accomplish this mission, because the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the tax cuts from the first Trump administration, as we know, would expire. So a big day for us. We will now get the committees operating on all cylinders. They'll be working over the 2-week district work period that encompasses Passover and Easter. They'll take a couple of days off for those holy celebrations, and then keep their sleeves rolled up and get right back to work.
Okay, so Massie's out there saying he doesn't trust the Senate. These fiscal hawks in the House, most of them said, all right, you gave us an on-paper agreement. We trust you. We believe you. Now, remember, the Senate originally said, we're going to try to shave, let's call it, a few billion off our spending. And these House guys are like, a few billion? We're not doing this for just a few billion. We're shooting for the moon. We want 1.5 trillion. Johnson got together with Thune, who runs the Senate over there, and said, hey, Thune, my guys are going to need more than the billions you're suggesting we cut over there on the Senate side. What can you do? And here's the question, Fast Eddie. Do we trust John Thune over there in the Senate? Because according to Mike Johnson and according to these House members, they said that Thune promised them, and this is the quote yesterday, and we're going to remember this, the Speaker said the two chambers are directly aligned on the target. Mr. Thune said many Republican senators believe 1.5 trillion in cuts is a minimum, although he was more cautious than Mr. Johnson when describing the alignment on $1.5 trillion as the ambition in the Senate. We're certainly going to do everything we can to be as aggressive as possible to see that we are serious about this matter. So, to go from the meager $4 billion in cuts the Senate proposed to coming out yesterday, Fast Eddie, with Mike Johnson and saying, well, okay, I'll go back there and we'll get as close as we can to $1.5 trillion. Now, guys like Massie say, he's a snake. Don't trust him. Do you trust him? There were enough members in the House yesterday that trusted this deal.
Chris,
they said, okay.
I do not trust John Thune on this. I think.
You're a Massie holdout.
I wouldn't say I'm a Massie holdout. I understand Trump's agenda needs to move forward. I think Thomas Massie doesn't understand that, but I do think he's right in questioning the Senate's intentions here, because after all, it was them who slowed up the bill in the first place in the very beginning, back January or February.
Let me take $4 billion in cuts offered in the Senate versus what the House wants, at least $1.5 trillion. And Speaker Johnson said yesterday the two chambers are directly aligned on the target of $1.5 trillion. And there are some who say $1.5 trillion ain't enough, by the way. So, Eddie, can Mike Johnson pull another rabbit out of the hat and get this thing done? I mean, he's already worked some miracles to get to this point, to be perfectly honest with you. Are we going to get there?
I don't think on the House side there's any more to budge if some of the hardliners, unlike Massie, supported it. But on the Senate side, I mean, you're talking about a slush fund, man, that's been growing for many, many years. So I'd be very cautious as to who votes, who holds up this agenda.
You know, I'm not a budget analyst of the government, and I can't purport to know exactly what this looks like. But I keep hearing people say we can't possibly cut that much from the budget and not touch Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. I hear that over and over and over again. And the Republicans and Trump, of course, say we're not touching Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. That's off the table. And I keep hearing all the smart people say there are no savings worth $1.5 trillion to be found unless you get into Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. I just don't believe that. I don't accept it. Based on what Elon Musk has found alone, I think we easily get to $1 trillion and more without touching Social Security and Medicaid. Now, we can have a discussion, and we ought to, about reforms to those programs, but I refuse to believe that we can't find $1 trillion in waste in this government without hitting Social Security. I just don't believe you. And I keep hearing all the smart people say that's so. I don't know. And I will tell you this, we have some upcoming conversations with members of the House as we approach the 100-day mark. And you're going to want to be here for this, because this is something I'm going to spend a lot of time digging on as we try to get to this one big, beautiful bill. It's also open line Friday. And I know a lot of you, I'm starting to get messages from last hour about Pam Bondi. There is no one, folks, that wants to be more supportive and see more success for a cabinet member than I feel for Pam Bondi. I want Pam Bondi to be the most fruitful, most successful member of all of President Trump's cabinet. There is no one, really, and I mean this, there is no one in that cabinet that means more to me in terms of fixing this broken country than the role of Attorney General right now under Donald Trump. And Pam Bondi is who he's chosen. I want her to do well. I cheer her on. She has my full support. But I keep hearing from so many people in this audience who say they're displeased and they're disappointed. And I have to tell you something. At this hour, I have a very difficult time explaining why. It feels as though we're dealing with a lot of cursory issues and not a lot of meaty issues when it comes to the weaponization of this government against you and me, against this sitting president who was running for president. This has to be investigated, and perhaps it is, and we just don't know. But I think a lot of people are feeling a lot of discontent that meaningful reforms, big-time stuff that needs to happen, isn't happening. And I know we can't know all of it. I understand the wheels of justice grind slowly. I understand this is a vast department, and it takes a lot of investigations. I don't expect constant updates. But here's the thing. if you're going to keep showing up on TV and talking, I think the American public need to know this. This is very reminiscent of Bill Barr, in whom I had the utmost confidence. He was a serious man of the law, and I was confident that Bill Barr was ultimately going to get to the bottom of this. And you remember night after night after night, certain cable TV hosts kept saying, indictments are coming, are coming, and they never came. I don't want this term of Donald Trump ending that way again. Justice must be sought. I'll keep trying to trust that Pam Bondi's doing that.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.